Hey, Cohen here, and I've got my book here, Kindle Publishing Secrets. So this is a book that I recently released, and in this thing it shares what I've been able to teach other people about Kindle publishing, as well as some of the things that I've done in my own business, my own Kindle publishing business, that has allowed me to make millions and millions and millions of dollars over the last decade with Kindle publishing. It's also allowed me to be able to get some of my students to the level of hitting, numbers like what you see here, over 100,000 in royalties earned. And when you look at things like this, right, you might be saying, well, Ty, how do you get someone like Linda, who I've actually become pretty cool friends with, how do you get her and many of your other students to that level? And I was talking to one of my other students earlier today, and one of the questions that she had was, Ty, you've been able to do this for yourself where you're generating tens and tens and tens of thousands of dollars a month with Kindle publishing. Why didn't you just keep it to yourself, right? And the better question that she asked me was, what are some of the mistakes that you made along your journey, right, of coming to this point where you've published books on Amazon and you've done this to the tune of making millions of dollars with it? Like, what are some of those mistakes that you've made? And I really had to think about it because it was such a great question. And I put together the top 3 mistakes that I've made, mistakes that have literally probably cost me even millions more in royalties that could have been earned. So I want to kind of share these with you. All right, so I'm going to share these with you, and hopefully you get some value out of these, and it shortcuts the path to your Kindle publishing success. I think that the student should always be able to go much further than the teacher, right? Should be able to go much further than the master. And that's because the master has gone through the obstacles, right? The master has overcome some of the barriers. The master has kind of made the mistakes and can look back in hindsight and say, listen, this is where I wasted time, this is where I wasted effort, this is where I wasted money, and don't do the same thing. So that's my give back. So hopefully you get some value out of this video and you're able to share it with others. And then at the end, if you guys want to grab a copy of the book, Kindle Publishing Secrets, I'm going to show you where you can go in and grab a copy and download it like instantly and start reading it. Because in this, we share things that have made not only myself millions of dollars, but other students of mine millions of dollars, or hundreds of thousands, or even tens of thousands of dollars, or even thousands of dollars. So this is a collective of things that have worked for me, as well as things that have worked for my students. So what's one of the first things? So one of the first big mistakes that I made, and I'm going to give you 3 of these. One of the first big mistakes that I made with Kindle publishing was, I just didn't reinvest a large enough portion of my profits initially, right? So when I first started publishing the Kindle, there were no YouTube videos on it. There were no podcasts on it. There were no courses on it. There were no masterminds, no coaching programs, no mentorships, no live events that you could go to. So many of the things that we do now in the Kindle Cashflow community. So I kind of learned through trial and error. And what I would do is I put I started publishing to Amazon's KDP platform, and I'm publishing books, and I'm generating these royalties and these residuals, right? I've got this IP, this intellectual property that's up there, and I'm taking the money and I'm paying bills with it, right? I'm doing other things with it. I'm having a good time with my wife, with my children, and I did that for a significant period of time. I want to say maybe for about a year, and that, to me, that's a significant period of time, until I realized that I should be reinvesting a significant amount of my royalties, my profits back into the business. So it dawned on me one day that, listen, the amount of money that I've been able to put into this thing, and I forget what I initially got started with, the amount that I first put into the initial couple of books that I had published. So I forgot what that amount was, but it was literally probably about $1,000, right? And that $1,000, it had dawned on me, had grown into thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, right? There was this almost infinite return because it continues. Books that I published 12, 13, 14, 15 years ago are still generating me royalties, right? So there's this infinite return there. And about a year into this, it dawned on me, like, dude, you should be putting more money back into your publishing business. Like, imagine if you had put 1,000 at this point where I'm making 2,000 a month. If I had taken half of that, put another 1,000 into it, and then the next month put another 1,000, and then the next month put another 1,000, right? So it wasn't until I really got to a point where I was making about 10,000 a month. That actually, before that, let me go back. So I had gotten to a point where I was making about 5,000 a month. That I started to say, I'm going to put the majority of this back into my business, right? Back into hiring more ghostwriters, hiring more editors, hiring more proofreaders, putting together some of the systems, right? And at this point, I'm at the basics. I'm doing bare minimum with the systems and all, and putting those things in place. But by me going in and doing that and being consistent with it, taking this 5,000 out I was making on average, and taking 3,000 or 4,000 of it and reinvesting it back into the business, that allowed me to get to the $10,000 a month level really quickly. And I remember the day as clear as day, right? When I had hit that $10,000 a month level. At that point, I was getting a check. So Amazon would mail me a check every month, and I remember going to my P.O. box, and my mom lived. I had got my mom a house not too far from us. My mom had lived maybe about 5 minutes away from where I live, right? Maybe about 6 or 7 minutes. So I would go to the post office on some mornings to check my mail, and then go take my mom some breakfast. So on this morning, I'm doing just that. I'm going to the post office. I went to the post office. Then I went to go get my mom some breakfast, and I'm taking it to her home, and I'm dropping it off. And I hadn't checked my mail yet. So at that point, I leave my mom's house. I get back in the car. I just thought, you're looking at your mail. You're curious as to what came in. And I saw that it was, and I knew that about this time of the month that Amazon was sending out royalties, right? So I went in and I opened up the check that came from Amazon. And it was just like about 9,000 something. It was very close to $10,000. I remember calling a friend of mine, an accountability partner of mine, Jawar. I said, dude, man, I did it. Like, would you believe I hit this $10,000 a month level with Amazon? And he said to me, he says, Ty, you're bullshitting. And when he said, Ty, you're bullshitting, he said it not out of disbelief, but out of being able to see the potential in me being able to hit this level. Because I had set a goal to him. I told him, like, listen, my goal is to get to $50,000 a month with Amazon Kindle Publishing. That's what my goal was at that time, right? It's since increased significantly. But he saw the potential. And when he said that, I drove to Walgreens Pharmacy. At that point, Walgreens Pharmacy was literally about half a mile away from my mom's house. So I drove to Walgreens Pharmacy, went in, I got a pen, I got a notepad, so like one of the canary notepads like this, right? The yellow ones. Still remember it to this day. I probably still have a notepad somewhere. And then I drove to the park. The park was literally just 2 minutes up the street. And I sat in the car and I wrote out a plan. I wrote out my plan for getting to $50,000 a month with Kindle Publishing. And that plan included me reinvesting back into my business. That plan included me building up a team. That plan included me putting together systems and SOPs. Right? So now I wish I had done that sooner. So one of those mistakes, one of the things that I wish I had done sooner was just reinvesting back into my business, right? And doing it much sooner. Because even at that point, I still was a little bit hesitant about putting a significant, you're making $10,000 a month, right? And you're like, okay, well, I'm going to put maybe half of it or maybe a quarter of it back into the business. I wish I would have, because at this point, I'm playing with the house's money. I wish I would have, put 9,000, 8,000 back into the business, right? Whatever was truly profit, putting it back into the business and continuing that momentum. It took me about another, maybe, I'd say about a year to really get to that point. And once I did that, that's when the business just took off, all right? So just having the hindsight of being able to put money back into the business sooner and reinvest in my profits. So that's the first mistake that I made there, right? That literally probably cost me hundreds of thousands to millions in sales from my Amazon Kindle business. The other thing is, the second thing is, I didn't go after multiple sales soon enough. So if your other mistake is I didn't go after multiple sales soon enough, and I see a lot of people that do this as well, right? I see people that are, maybe they're testing the waters, maybe they're traditional writers and they want to write all of their content, which is fine. You know, I teach outsourcing and writing, whichever works best for you, but ideally that you should be outsourcing even if you are a writer, and outsourcing 100% if you're not a writer. But what I mean by multiple sales is going after one person one time was a mistake that I made for just literally too long of a period, right? Instead of getting this one person into my sphere, getting them to read my content and falling in love with it to the point where they're like, okay, well, what's next? What's next? And you can do this with fact and fiction. You could do it with a book like the Kindle Publishing Secrets book, right? Or you could do it with like a romance novel. But getting them to the point where they want to continue the journey, whether it's being entertained, right? Let's say you're writing a romance novel and they want the second book, they want the next installment. So that's one of the mistakes that I didn't that I actually made and I didn't correct soon enough, right? It's getting that one person who became a buyer, who became a reader, who became a fan, to now go in and buy from me repeatedly within a short window. Hopefully that makes sense, right? Because that was the next thing that exploded my sales. Getting someone to come in and buy this book, read it, and then boom, immediately love it and want to buy the next thing. If you're a reader, you understand where I'm coming from, right? If you're a reader, let me know in the comments box right now. When you find something that you love and you're just passionate about it, look at Harry Potter fans. They want to go in and they can't wait till the next book comes out, right? They cannot wait until the next installment comes out. Think about your favorite author, your favorite book. And if you read that book, think about this, and you loved it, and then the second version, the next version in that series was available immediately or the next week, would you go in and buy it? Yes or no? Absolutely. So the mistake that I made was not allowing my customers, my readers, to go in and buy my content, my books, one after the other. And now we teach that. So that's one of the things that in this Kindle Publishing Secrets book, you'll actually understand, right? You'll understand the process of building out a series and getting that person to buy from you multiple times. There's a few different ways that you can increase your business, right? Very quick ways that you can increase the sales of your business. Number one, increase the frequency in which a customer buys, right? Number two, increase the dollar amount that a person spends, okay? And then number three, increase longevity, right? In which they spend, like how often do they spend? Right? So frequency and longevity, right? Instead of keeping someone for just a month as a buyer, right? They're now a buyer of yours for years or for months or for decades. And you see that oftentimes, right? So that's the second thing. The second thing was I didn't go after multiple sales soon enough, all right? And then the third mistake that I made is I didn't publish frequently enough. And I find a lot of people that make this mistake as well. So that's one of the biggest things that we can do to help you and improve your sales, to help you and improve the amount of revenue that you're bringing in, is just increase the frequency. Once you find something, you find a niche, you find a reader base that loves what it is that you're publishing, give them more, because people will consume quickly. They'll consume and they'll consume and they'll consume and they'll consume. So those three things right there have cost me hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. And hopefully with me sharing that with you, it'll give you some shortcuts. It'll hopefully plant some seeds, right? It'll give you some ideas that you can play with. And if you want more ideas, you can go in and grab a copy of this book, Kindle Publishing Secrets. I'll leave a link around this or maybe under this video somewhere. And let me know what you think about the book. Go in, grab it. Let me know what you think about the book. I also have a video if you guys want to watch. I've got an entire video that you can watch that talks about how I do some of this stuff in even more detail. So if you like this video and you want to see more, let me know and I'll definitely shoot some more. My plan is to shoot these videos quite frequently and often so that you get value. And I'm just going to go in and dig into crates and think about the things that I did that worked really well and that are still working extremely well to this day, that bring in revenue day in and day out, hourly and every couple of minutes at this point. As well as some of the things that I just really screwed up and I'm like, geez, you made a stupid mistake. so that you avoid making those mistakes and that you do the things that I did that work really well. All right, so there you go. We'll see you. Comment below and let me know which of the 3 are your favorite out of the 3. Comment below, let me know. And what we'll do is I want to take, and also let me know what your biggest takeaway is. Here's what I want to do. The person who has the biggest takeaway, I want to send them $100. All right, so the person who has the biggest takeaway and who gets the most votes on it, this is what we'll do. We'll legitimately allow other members in the community to vote on it. I'm going to send you $100. All right, so don't cheat the system. Let other people, we'll know if you're cheating the system, right? Let other people in the community go in and vote, and you guys will each hold one another accountable. All right, so I'll see you soon. Go in, post your biggest takeaway, and share this video if you got value out of it.